Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the discussion. This is episode 266, and tonight we have the pleasure and honor of having GM Felix Cortes. I'm going to be bringing him up. If you've not already, please subscribe to FMA Discussion. All the money received goes to charity. We give all our money from the channel to there. So you'll be helping us help people. We give it to charities that involve kids, hunger campaigns, orphanages, and stuff like that. If you have questions for GM Felix, please put them on the right side. I'll definitely get to them. And without further ado, we're going to be bringing him up. And looking forward to this, and I hope you guys as well. So welcome. Thank you. Hi, GM. How you doing? Thank you for coming on.
Good evening. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah. My pleasure. You know, it came highly touted, and you were away for a while, so we finally made it happen. So, you know, as the saying goes, better late than never, right? So
that's right. That's right. We're here now, so
that's all that matters, right? So
that's right.
You had an early start. So, you know, you're a young kid, you're in Queens, New York, and you go to a Taekwondo school, and you're taking Taekwondo, and all of a sudden in the Taekwondo school, there's FMA. So, but you didn't know that upon going there initially. Am I correct?
Yes, I didn't go there to take Taekwondo. I went there to sign up for martial arts classes that a friend of mine recommended. They already were training there, and so I wanted, you know, love martial arts, Bruce Lee, that kind of stuff. Wanted to do martial arts. He told me where to go, and I went there, and it just happened that they were a Taekwondo school as well. And as I mentioned yesterday, so I signed up. I don't know the difference, you know, right?
Yeah.
Nobody told me the difference. And but once we got everything sorted out, it turned out to be that it was Filipino martial arts.
Wow. And but now you, if I'm not mistaken, you did both, correct?
I eventually started doing both. What we used to do is we trained Taekwondo, not necessarily the forms, but we used to do a lot of sparring, and then we learned to kick, so then we can learn to counter kicks, you know, use our guntings, you know, elbow strikes, you know, kicking the kicks, and, you know, learning the combat aspect of FMA, or armas de mano, or arnis de mano, or how we used to call it back in the day was the ACC club, which was the Arnis Combat Club.
Oh, wow. Okay, this is the first I'm hearing about that. Wow. And okay, so and you're like what? I mean, 13, 14? I mean, how old are you?
Yeah, I was 13. Yeah, this was 1977.
Wow. So you're 13, and then you're doing FMA at 13 years old. I can't imagine there were a lot of
all I wanted to do was kick and punch. As a matter of fact, when I went to the school and I saw this stick stuff, I was like, that's not what I signed up for. You know. So I told the instructor, I was like, which was Pamana Tuhong Crisayo at the time, right? He's a young man. And I was like, yeah, I want to do, you know, like hands and feet. I want to, you know. And then he was like, all right, go with that group. And the group where they were doing footwork, you know, forward reverse triangles, you know, and other empty hand stuff. And so I started training with the group, and then I see the guys with the sticks, and I'm like, wow, okay, I mean, man, that's cool. Hey, you know, I want to do that. I was like, yeah, okay, go back with that group. So at an early age, I learned that, you know, you don't really tell the instructor what you want.
Where you want to
just train. Right. I want this. It's not a la carte martial arts, you know.
Yeah. You're not going through a assembly line. So what?
Right.
At that young age, I mean, what did you, you know, what did you think about that? Like, you know, when you're experiencing like weapons, I mean, like, you know, obviously you never seen this before. Like, what was your initial take of it?
You know, it wasn't like I was like shocked or anything. It was cool. You know, it wasn't like, oh my God, we're doing weapons. It was just like, oh wow, this is really cool. The twirling, you know, rolling with sticks and stuff, and yeah, it was just exciting. I just accepted it. I enjoyed it. I liked it, and you know, I already made the mistake of saying, hey, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. So from that point on, I just took in whatever whatever we did. That's what I was doing.
So, because it's funny because when Tuan Sayak went public, it was I mean, it was knife all the time, the whole thing. I don't think a lot of people realize that he was, he was doing everything, teaching stick back then and all that. So was stick mostly the curriculum back then?
Our curriculum was general like FMA, curriculum. We did single stick, double stick, lowering short stick or sparadaga. We did bankao, spear, sibat, bow. We did tabak tayok, where the nunchucks. We're at the house, cutting our mom's broomsticks, making stuff so we can train. And it was like a Chinese weapon or this or that or whatever, Bruce Lee. But these were weapons that we used, that we were training with, that we would experiment with, that we would spar with, just like to see, hey, these chucks aren't as cool as we thought. They look great in the movies, but for sparring, every time you hit the stick, they're hitting your back. Yeah, then you learn to appreciate more of that. That's that 29-inch, 28-inch stick that you're training with, the lathe, right?
You can just twirl around.
And then we learned to do dos manos, which was yeah, right. Long, just 42-inch sticks or whatever. Now we're fighting, using like a samurai style type thing. But it's a Filipino technique as well. The bow staff, when we spar, we use both ends. But when we were doing it like the sibat, then we just practice, hitting with with one end, like we'd utilize it as a spear. So we did a lot of stuff, and we also did empty hands. We also learned to kick. We did the low line kicking, which was sikaran. But then we also learned high line kicking because, hey man, we're kids. We want to do Bruce Lee. I spend my weekends sometimes on 42nd Street, at the watch.
Wow. So
yeah.
Wow. So then
it was later on that it became all blade. He honed his training and everything. And I won't speak for him or the SIAC system, but at that time it was they were introducing someone that or something that in the FMA system probably it's not. They weren't doing, just focusing on just weapons. I mean, bladed weapons. All blade all the time. All blade all the time also meant not that they carry blades all the time, but that a blade can come out in a situation at any time. That's why it's all blade all the time. It's about the awareness, not about the actual carrying or or using, but the awareness of all blade all the time.
Right. That's how it was construed to me when I was with them too. So I mean, so when you were there, so was it pretty much Tuan Chris teaching, or was Bo the father around as well?
Yeah, the father was around, but it was us going in there. He'd take the keys. We'd go in there at night, and you let a bunch of 13, 14, 15-year-olds, loose in the school, training at night. We shut off the lights. We're doing all kind of crazy stuff. So at that time, yeah, it was primarily Tuan Chris, that ran his guys that were training, and of course, we trained with his dad. The whole family would be there, on the weekends. Even his sisters, a lot of people don't know, but his sisters trained also. They were instructors. They were lakans. We don't hear a lot about them.
No, I know.
I don't know why, but yeah. Deanne, Cindy, Leilani was a little younger back then, but even she trained. So his sisters, they were pretty badass.
No, I've always heard that the whole family was doing it. I mean, so you stood there. So you were with them. I mean, a long time, right?
Yes. Yeah, I started at 13, and I was with them, since then. Of course, I moved one time moved to upstate New York for a while, and then I moved to Maryland, before I started living in Maryland. I went to Maryland. So there were times that, of course, you break away and stuff. You live somewhere, you do things, but we've always kept in contact and
Wow.
training with them. Even when the family moved to Florida, originally moved to Florida. His parents, he stayed in New York, and we just primarily trained with him because the family moved to Florida. Then we went to Florida and we did the whole school, over there.
Right, because I remember Bo having the school in Florida, right, and Chris staying in New York, and right.
Yeah, he had a place in Poinciana, right? Kissimmee, Poinciana. And then they had a school on Main Street. And then we used to live at the school. We crashed with a bunch of guys. There was an apartment upstairs. And then on Main Street, they had the school downstairs. And, that's what we did, man. We just rough it.
Wow. I mean, that'd just be like, and then just all the other instructors that were coming in. I mean, my gosh. I mean, I know you were young, but man, that would be like just incredible. Guy, hey, I mean, Professor V. I mean, just, I think Kakoi even popped in at one point. I mean, just like huge names. I mean, did you ever get to train with any of them, or a little?
When Kakoi came to the U.S., I think it was for the first time. He came with his daughter, right? Katie Cañete, I believe, right? And then one of his top students, which was Don Cuesta.
Don Cuesta,
right?
Yeah.
And they came like from the airport, like to the school. So right there was like exchange of hands and training and stuff. Yeah. And we didn't know who this guy was. We just knew that he was awesome because he started demonstrating right away, and he was like fast and good, and we were like super impressed. As a matter of fact, that's how our first, we didn't used to have like forms. Everything was kind of like free flow. Yeah. And our first forms that we had in the psyop fighting systems were inspired by those spots.
How interesting! All right, wow, interesting. I didn't realize that. That's incredible. So I mean, so you obviously you're ranked in there. I mean, but back then though it was psyop fighting systems, correct?
Right. I was ranked as a Pikiritisha Yakan de la Waguru. Not many people know that I was ranked in Pikiritisha, right? But I was. Because Chris Psyop was, he was ranked, right? He was with the Leo Gaia for many years. And then when Psyop fighting systems, it was just evolved as Psyop fighting systems. Then we received ranked on that as well.
Wow, that just had to be incredible. Just all those guys coming in there, and you get to train with Guy often as well.
Guy used to come like on Saturdays, like during the week. It wasn't really there, but on weekends and stuff like that, we'd have an opportunity, to train. He would come and he'd teach. Suryadi, what's his name? Jeffrey. He was a Penchak Silat master that used to travel a lot with Leo Gahe. Eddie Jaffrey, exactly. Eddie Jaffrey. Yeah, we even got to do some stuff with Eddie Jaffrey. He came to the school. He was like, we were like, oh my God, he's crazy, but crazy good.
No, I heard the stories about him on the subway and leaving money out of his pocket, so people would try to take. I mean, I heard he was exceptional as far as his C-lot goes. I mean, I heard, wow, what it just, man. And of course, you're young. You're not realizing the magnitude of all these guys.
No,
I mean, you're just like
at that time, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Again, when they would gather at the house, we're not there going, oh my God, look. We're just like, we went there to train, and there were all the uncles and and seniors, in the house or something like that. And, we're at that time, me personally, maybe some of the other guys that are maybe more aware than I was or something, maybe they knew, but I was just like, okay, cool.
Yeah. Now when you look back,
but that's happened to me a long time too.
Yeah.
When I look back, I was like, wow, I was there.
Yeah. I mean, that's just incredible. Like who was coming in and out of the doors. And I mean, just, who you were training with. I mean, just amazing, man. Wow. So, so did you, now when he transitioned to all the knife, you were still with them when he kind of went into just more the edge weapon focus?
Actually, no. I moved to Maryland.
Maryland. Okay, right.
Yeah, I moved to Maryland, and I've already moved to Maryland. So when he went public with the Oblate all the time, I was living there, and I was teaching. I moved there to teach for Master J Kim Taekwondo. I got a job there, and so I was teaching Taekwondo, and that I was doing that full time. But when he came out with with the Oblate all the time curriculum.
Okay. Because and it sounds like you had him come down too for seminars and what have you. I know he made a couple stops in Maryland, and that.
Yeah, he come down often because he had a training group there with Master Fred Ocampo. Fred Ocampo ran their group in Maryland. When we first went to Baltimore at a tournament, we all got in a bus. We all a convoy to Baltimore for this big tournament that we were invited to. Master Sensei Kande was a master, a well-known master in the area. That he had a tournament when Chris Sayak was invited as a guest to do a demo there. Master Fred set it up. We went there for the tournament. So we went to Maryland, fairly on as well, and so that's how I got involved, and it kept going back to Maryland.
Right. Jeez. Wow. So all right, so you moved to Maryland. So you're working full time for the Taekwondo school and all that. Is this where you really kind of got really involved in Taekwondo?
Yeah, I got more involved in Taekwondo then because I'm doing it full time. So now when I got the job, I had to do a month training because then I had to learn their system, their curriculum, their forms for the school. Master J Kim, he had Palge forms, and then he had different Taeguk forms. He had different sets of forms that was like his curriculum. So we had to just train, learn the forms. Then they had me, a curriculum book. I had a manager that checked up on us. We'd have instructor meetings every week. We're always training, make sure that we were up on the curriculum, and making sure that the schools were making money, getting students.
Yeah, right. Definitely.
Yeah. So, but when I moved to Maryland, before I moved to Maryland, there was a promotion at Apollo School.
Apollo Ladra.
That's how I met Apollo. That's how I met Apollo Ladra and Bobby Ladra. They had a promotion at their school with Master Bo Sayok, and he promoted. Let's see, it was Robert Torres, right? Robert Torres and Dennis Tierney. They were the guys from Long Island. He promoted them to Tuhon at the same time that I got promoted to Tuhon, and that was in Maryland at Apollo School.
Oh, no kidding! I remember. Yeah, Robert Torres, right? Okay.
Yeah. He's a long time friend. Chris Sayak's long time. Someone that trained with Professor V and stuff, and I don't know about that training and stuff, but I knew of him. We've been to his house and stuff.
Yeah. He was. I mean, he was definitely part of the pack back then, for sure.
Definitely. Oh yeah.
So now, when you're teaching there and all that, did you? At what point? I mean, will you still continue your FMA training, or?
I trained because then there's the family, the Patalinghog family. There's Carlos Patalinghog. He's a representative of Doce Pares for the U.S. in Maryland. Now back then he trained with he was a black belt of one of Master Fred Ocampo's black belts in Taekwondo. Then he was training with the Sayok Fighting Systems, and then they moved on to do Doce Pares. So we trained. I trained personally. I've always kept in contact with Chris. There was a time that I did lose contact because then by that time I opened the school and I'm teaching at my school and I'm doing my stuff. So he kind of like let me focus on what I was doing. But if anything happened or whatever that that he need me or contact, or I contact him. But yeah. Yeah, we're always trained.
What did you enjoy about
I
Dose?
focused more on Taekwondo because that was, that was my job.
Yeah. No, understood. Right.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. What did I enjoy about?
Yeah, Dose Paris. Like, I mean, because you're coming from SEAC fighting systems, and then you're doing Dose Paris, known for its Corte
Right.
short curve, strike, the stick and all that. What did you enjoy about
Yeah,
that?
it's just different. What I enjoyed is I love that the fact that they had set forms, set patterns, that we can train and practice and stuff. I thought that was pretty cool because everything that we did was, at that time was freestyle. Plus I like the speed of the movements, that they did. It was just something, a new take or something different, for the sparring. How working the boutiques and so on and stuff. Yeah, I thought it was cool.
Yeah. Okay. And you stay with them long or?
I didn't specifically train with them. Only like when they, came to the school, or
Oh,
if
yeah,
Don
okay.
Cuesta was, at our school, or if we went to Jersey City and visit him or something, and we trained or something like that. Yeah, it wasn't like I, specifically, went under a group and trained those zapatos.
Yeah. So right up to now, so you got the SEAC fighting systems, you got the heated Terja, and then you're dabbling in Dose Paris. Any other systems that you were training in or enjoyed up to this point?
No, the main thing that we trained was side fighting systems.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
It
that
sounds
was
like
the
it's pretty
focus.
complete. Man. So
Yeah. I mean, we just, like I said, after that first experience that I had about saying, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. I just focused on what he was teaching, and then that's what, that was my focus. And in a way, it kind of, it's like a double-edged sword. You focus so much on one thing because you had an experience, and then you kind of miss out on. Well, I don't feel that I missed out on anything, but maybe just knowing about other stuff.
or right, maybe other systems you could have maybe dabbled in
Other
or
systems that I
experienced.
could have maybe, yeah.
Yeah, no,
Right.
yeah. I know, it's so funny you bring that up. Like, I bounced around for various different reasons. But like I could never, and I give, and I have admiration. I give credit to where it's due, but I don't think I could ever just stay in one system. I don't think I could do it. I just, there's just so much out there, and you know what I mean. I don't know. I guess some folks can do it. And like I look at Tuan Bill McGrath. I mean, staying at Bikita all those years and all that, but I don't. I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't. Like,
It's like you find a home, you click with people, you have your tribe, your family. So some people just stick to that. I stuck to that. And again, yeah, I thought it was great because I can focus on our curriculum, what we're doing, and excel in that. But I would have liked to train more and maybe on some other stuff, just to get a more of an idea of what other people are doing, what's out there. Like Balintawak, I would have loved to train with GM Bobby Tobala, back in the day with what I'm doing now, and training with him, stuff like that. I think it would be great. There's a lot of different great Balintawak masters, and people will gravitate to one that they would click with or have something in common with or admire or whatever. I just specifically like the Quintada, because it's like really like the boxing stuff, like kind of
yeah,
like
it is.
like
It's like
the
the
way I
Wing
would
Chun
move, or the way, yeah, like the way my natural movements would be. So I kind of gravitate to that. So I wish I could have done that at a earlier stage in my FMA career.
Yeah, it's still time though. You know what I
It's
mean?
not too late. That's right. That's
You know what I
right.
mean?
Sometimes I'll have a student or someone, or Alexander Pisarkin. He, when we get together, he'll start teaching me some of the stuff that we actually use in also in some of the choreography for either like trying to develop fighting concepts or for film or something like that. Yeah, it's great.
We got folks in. We got Tuan Bobby, Brian Rodriguez,
Uh-oh.
Caesar. We got Surratt. Tuan. Oh, here's a question.
Aha.
Ask
Uh-oh.
him about the Arnie's comedy role.
That has to be uh, Naji No, right? What's the person's name? Sirat
yeah,
Saya,
Sira.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my buddy. Back in the day, we call him Tito, right? That was his nickname, Tito. We went to school together, and we used to train at the Saya fighting systems in Parsons. Yeah, it was something. It was a routine that Chris Sayak taught us. It was something that we did at a demo, and that dealt with me climbing on his back and then sliding down his back between his legs and taking him down with my legs and stuff. So that was a takedown that we did, and then there was also where I grab his ankles, and then we roll like a wheel. He grabs my ankles, I grab his ankles, and it was just something that we did it like in a demo. That was fun. It was pretty cool at the time.
Oh, so that's where he's meeting the comedy role. Okay.
The comedy role, yeah, because we thought it was funny because not as wouldn't use this for anything but a show, you know.
Yeah.
So it was just funny.
And so what was the sparring? I mean, back in the day, I mean, when you guys must have been banging it out, right? I mean, were you guys, was it mostly stick sparring, anything, or, guys played around?
Yeah, it was like if we stick spar and you lost the stick, you lost the stick. you had to keep going because your partner was not gonna stop, And remind you, we're kids, so we're like, man, we want to win, we want to train hard, we're just doing what we enjoy doing. We're not looking like, hey, it's dangerous, you can pull your eye out. We're not thinking of anything like that. We're just thinking hey, we're training, this is cool, and we loved it. Yeah, did we get hurt? Sure. One time I got Mike Sile, we're sparring, he did a spinning back fist, and he hit me. We don't have gear, right? We don't have gloves, we're just sparring, and he spin back fist me in the face, and he busted my lip, like busted it open. And so Chris comes and looks at it. Oh yeah, you're fine. Ready, let's go. And we keep going. So I mean, I'm young, I'm going like this. For some reason, it wasn't like gashing blood. It was just open and it bled. But they wiped it and we kept sparring. And I'm great. Boom, boom. We're sparring. We finish the class. I go in the locker rooms, and I go like this, very calm. I look in the mirror. That's where the calmness went out the window. Oh my God. And it wasn't because I got my lip busted, because I was over it. It was done. It was, what am I going to tell my mother?
Yeah, you're going to go
right? Because I got to go home now. And I got a freaking gash in my mouth that I got in the karate school. She's never going to let me come back here. Right? She's not paying people to do this to me.
Yeah,
She's never going to let me come back here. So now we got to sit down. We got to plot and plan a story, right? That will not implement the school in this crazy scheme, right? So the story was that coming home after training, right? Somebody jumped me to take my bike. But because of my martial arts skills, I was able to fence them off and make it home safe. Right. So my mother bought it, and then she took me to Jamaica Hospital. I got stitches, and then I'm back training. You know what I mean? I didn't come up with that by myself. I don't think I was that creative,
Well, what's so funny
that was the story.
Then she's like, "Oh my God! Imagine if I wasn't paying for training for him. It could have been so much worse."
I don't know what she was thinking, but she believed it, and and it took the school out of the. Out of the whole deal, and so I kept training out of the limelight, and I kept training. So
it was fun. So Roger said the BMX bike story, and there were no padded. Right? Jeez, man! Wow! So Mike Sayak, I mean, he's in the Philippines now. Am I correct? Is he?
I'm not sure. I think he goes from the Philippines to Florida. He's probably there a lot, but yeah. Probably goes back and forth. Last I heard, he was in Florida, but he might be in the Philippines. He has family there too. Mike everybody knew Chris Sayo, for the blade and sticks and stuff. But Mike, he was a Sayo. He although he emphasized a lot on the Taekwondo, and his idol and stuff was like when everybody's on Bruce Lee, his was Sonny Chiba. You know, yeah, he's a stunt achiever. So although, you know, but he did all the stick stuff, nice stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
of course,
yeah.
Chris Sayok took it to another level.
Right,
But
right.
still, he's a Sayok man. You know?
No, I mean, absolutely. Like, yeah, they were all like involved. Like you said, the sisters. I mean, I think one was really good at whip or something.
They
I
were
mean,
all, yeah. And the sisters, yeah, the
you
sisters,
know,
sure,
yeah, it was, I
sure.
mean, literally a family affair. You know, I mean, just wow. So, all right, so you okay? You're in Maryland now. You're working at the Taekwondo school. What led you to opening your own school? And was your first school was it Taekwondo based?
Yes, it was. Well, what happened was that I asked for a raise at my job, right? I'm like, hey man, you know, I don't want to get raised. And then my manager told me, why would Master Kim give you a raise? He can get somebody else to do what you do for less.
Mm,
What?
yeah, that's
I'm
not.
like, but there's no way, you know. I'm thinking, hey, you can get somebody to teach Taekwondo for less, but you can't get somebody to sell a program on the floor for less. Because that's what I do. I sell a program. I'll teach you, you know, Taekwondo. I focus, you know, on the curriculum, on the training, on, you know, the physical aspect. But at the end of the day, that's a job. The school has to make money. You know, if I want to get a bonus or this or that, that's what it is, man. You know, but you that's a commercial school versus, you know, other schools, right? I still focus on developing quality students despite that. You
Mm,
know, our sparring was still original, like good despite that. You know, yeah, I have to do this job, but I also have to keep an integrity, you know, and promote students, you know, that have the confidence and the ability, you know, to do what we're teaching.
yeah, no, absolutely. So it sounds like based off you
But
know,
but
not getting the
I'm sorry.
raise.
Yeah. So what happened was when I when I asked for the raise, they told me no. There was a friend of mine. His name is a Greek gentleman, Nick Soterio. Right? Nick has been after me to do a school for many years, but I always turned him down because I didn't want the responsibility of a school. Shoot,
Right.
I'm making money, you know, teaching taekwondo and without the, you know, responsibility of having to do, you know, a business. And I was
Yeah.
doing for me, I thought I was doing okay. So when that happened, I called him up and I said, I said, hey, Nick, I'm ready. He's like, ready for what? I said, I'm ready, man. He said, don't say it. Don't say it. I was like, yeah, I'm ready. And and he goes, all right. Then we had a meeting and he was like, what we need to do is we need to look for a place. I was like, let's step back a minute, right? I have no money. I'm ready, but I'm broke. He's like, don't worry. He says, I'll put the money up. You sign for half and you know, and we'll get this school going. So that's what happened. He put up you know, the 100% of the cash. I signed, you know, I put my John Hancock that I would be responsible for half, and that's what happened. That's how we got started.
Wow, that was man. That sounds like a great guy, man. Holy crap. Yeah.
Well, he believed in me. You know, he
Yeah.
believes in me till today. Yeah. So he knew like, hey, we can do this. You know, he was always like, hey, with your talents and your charisma and this and that. And I was like, okay, stop it. Let's make some money first. You know, let's make this successful first before, you know, you don't want a whole bunch of titles and you're broke.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
a whole bunch of accolades and stuff. Oh, wow, he's the best in the world. You know, well,
Yeah.
you know, let's see. So yeah, so then you know, we opened the school, and when we opened it, it was just four walls. We didn't have an office, we didn't have a locker rooms. It was just four walls. And as the students started coming in, we built out the office. They're coming in. We
Mm,
did actually the locker room first was the most important part. The
yeah.
locker room. Then we did the office and stuff. And yeah, and then it just grew. And then you know, Nick also had a construction business. He was always into construction. I used to work for him for many years before when I
Okay.
first moved to Maryland. He had a painting business and stuff. And so, yeah, you know, he had to focus on that because he had the school during the night and then the business during the day. And then he's got a family and stuff. So he had to focus on that. So we sat down and, you know, he was like, what do you think? I was like, oh, man, you know, I got to do it. So he taught me how to run the business. You know, he taught me the business end of the school. So I took it over, I bought him out, and the rest was history, man.
Wow.
My
Wow. How
first
do you?
year, my first physical year that I ran my school, I grossed, I grossed six figures. And after that, I was hooked. After that, I was like, Like, this is my college. This is my college, you know.
Yeah.
Right, just focus. So I just focus on business,
Yeah, when
don't
it's
try to
coming
run the school,
in,
focus on make it better.
it gets addictive. You know what I mean? It starts coming in. You're like, huh. It's,
Yeah.
how now? Did he have a martial arts background? How come he was so successful when getting it open?
Yeah, Nick's a businessman since he was a kid. I don't think he ever like held a job. Like, he's always ran a business, paint this business, this business. Like, just he always worked for himself. He had 3 martial arts schools along with another gentleman called Dan Batanga. Dan Batanga was a Filipino guy who sold Okinawan Shorin-ryu, and that was his partner. They had 3 schools, so they already had this by this time the schools were closed.
Yeah.
But when I first met them, they had these schools. It was called MAC centers, like martial arts centers.
Okay.
So he knew how to run a business, and so the original plan was he'll run the business and I'll run the classes. And I was like, yeah, that's not going to be cool, because what happens if one day you're not around? Then I'll lose everything, and I don't want to work for years to lose everything. So I have to learn the business. And he agreed, so he taught me. Every day we would go in and we would have a business session. Then he would run the business and I'd teach the class. We'd finish the classes at the end of the night. We'll have our little business session. This is what you do. This is deposit. This is that. This is the water bill. Everything. And he taught me well.
Wow, that's awesome. Wow. And this like about what year? I mean, like, when was all this going on? Was this 90s or with like
1991? No, 91 I moved to Maryland. 92 I opened a school. It was July 1992. It was a year after I was teaching for Kim's Karate. It was actually 1 year to the date, because it was a year that I was teaching at Kim's Karate. That's why I asked for a raise. Hey, I've been here for a year. Yeah. The school is a top grossing school. All I asked for a raise, man. Just a raise. I didn't ask for a franchise. I asked for a raise. But that's the best thing that he did, was to tell me no.
To tell you no,
because then, I went on. Yeah, to tell me no, because it pushed me to reinvent myself. I'm not just now, Felix, the instructor. Now I became Felix, the school owner, Felix, the businessman, Felix, the got to do something or you're going to lose everything. This is it. This was it for me. Either it was that or go back to New York, which I was not going to do. I moved from New York. I moved from New York. I went to Maryland, back to the story where I got promoted at Apollo School, right? Yeah. There, I met Michael Campo, which was Fredo Campo's son, very good friend of mine. And he was like, hey, man, you want a job? Do that, teaching Taekwondo. And I was like, dude, what do you guys do? So he said, come back in a week. I'll show you around. I went back, man. These guys got sports cars. They had the phones, the ones that used to screw onto the dash, pages. This. I'm like, freaking, you guys teach martial arts. Come on, you teach martial arts. Yeah. So he showed me around, and I'm like, man, wow. And I literally went home, packed, and came back. It was like, but there was no thinking about it for me. I went home, packed, and came back. A week later, I said, I'm ready.
Oh, so
that's what we did. All I did was train.
Wow. So you might you were.
I wanted what they had.
Yeah. Period.
No, I was working in a factory. I was working in a factory in New York. I was a spot welder in a factory in New York, right? And I was like, yo, I want what you have, and I went and I got it.
And that's when you were like, buy New York.
Yeah, buy New York. And I used to go back to New York on the weekends, because you miss it, you want to hang out, and then you get over that. I don't need to go hang out. I need to focus on
right.
Students. I need to focus on business. I need to focus.
Yeah.
That
goes away quick. Yeah.
Once I started doing, and I already had friends there, 29 years old with 300 students, couple of schools and stuff like that. Apollo was one of those guys. Apollo's a freaking top grossing, Taekwondo school in Maryland. And I'm like, damn, so I just focus. So, hey man, you're around people that inspire you, in a positive way. Something's going to rub off and you become successful too.
Wow.
Yeah, so a lot of people had, and whether they knew it or not, they had a little play in the success of Felix,
Right. Yeah. So you're all right. So you open your Taekwondo school. At what point did you start teaching FMA?
Well, when I opened it, it was called Arnis Taekwondo Academy. So I had my Taekwondo classes, and then I had my slots for stick fighting. But the Taekwondo classes, they filled up so fast because it's Taekwondo. We still have to struggle to promote FMA.
Yeah.
You know, we still have to struggle that you're teaching kids with sticks. Parents don't want that. So I had mostly adults, and it was in small groups, and it wasn't that many adults coming. So what I did was like, my classes are full. I have like 30 people on the list ready to fill up another slot. The slot that's open was my FMA slot. So I have like 3 people in that slot, 3:30. So I was like, okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Guys, I'm going to give you a reduced rate. I'm going to teach you at your time. You'll play, like, it would be private classes, but it would be when you can make it. I'll accommodate you like however that I can, but I need this slot. So they were like, oh, cool. They have something to gain as well, right? They can schedule it when they can. They can come in, and I'll just be very flexible for them. And then I opened that slot for Taekwondo, and then that was working. And then it started miraculously. The group started growing when I started doing it by scheduling the classes. Because I can schedule it at different times. It didn't have to be in the evenings when my classes were evening. Now you can come in during the day. You can come in at your lunch break. You can come in, at different times. So I started getting more students because now you're adults that are working. It's not like kids. The adults are working, they're busy, they're this. So they can schedule their classes to come in. So actually that was a plus that turned out that for closing that slot, it worked out both ways. It worked out that I got more FMA students because of it, and I was able to fill out the class. So it worked out. It worked out really great.
I can tell you, because that's a struggle. I mean, like you see it today, not so much obviously with Apollo. He's got something really great going on in Ace, but generally speaking, outside of, it's tough. Some of these guys are really having difficulty like growing their FMA schools. And matter of fact, we're having episodes on that. Like how to help these people like really get a bigger FMA class or a whole FMA school as a whole, but we have to get rid of that backyard mentality. You know what I mean?
What worked for me was a curriculum.
Yeah.
Curriculum, goals, set goals and curriculums. Once I did that, and it wasn't so hard because we had one from the SIOC fighting systems. We had a curriculum. Man, I still have that curriculum from to today. Our original curriculum is handwritten with pen on freaking notebook paper, right? And we just write down footwork. We write footwork, put down all the footwork. Stick drills, single stick, chamber and switching, twirling, speed drills. We write everything down, and then we break them up. This is for this stage, this stage, this stage. Okay, in this stage, we're going to do these same drills, but it's going to be more advanced. We're going to add this, and we had a curriculum from way back then, and I still have that curriculum. So I based my curriculum, I just followed that. When I started FC, everything changed a little bit because, of course, a lot of that original curriculum was Pikita-Tisha, 36 attacks, 64 attacks, 120 attacks, fall wall, umbrella, break in, break out, tap it. All that stuff was like general, that was part of my curriculum. So what I did is under the instructions of Kawanato and Chris SIOC is I revamped the SIOC fighting systems and started creating templates based on their methodologies and my experience, my fighting experience, my not just teaching, but full contact fights. And I was like, okay, what works, what doesn't work, and why does it work? Let's put them together, and this is how we make a template. So, for example, my C template, right, is 12 moves, just like any other FMA. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right there, right. The only difference is that it was developed by fighting combinations. So, for example, if my fight combination was 3 moves, right, because I don't do more than 3 moves at the time, like jab, cross, hook type of thing, right? It's 3 moves because a boxer doesn't go, you go pop, 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 right? So then I said, hey, this is how fighting works for me. So this is how I'm going to develop this. So I took combinations that I did for fighting, and I put this is the first set of 3, the second set of 3. So I took 4 combinations, put them together. That became my first template.
Excellent.
But it was developed. The 12 moves were developed from three strike fight combinations. Because it was like pop, 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 reset, pop, 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 reset. You know, you can take those 3 strikes, use timing and beats, and then do 1 pop, pop, pop. It's still 1, 2, 3, but now you switch it up.
Yeah,
and then that's how we started.
Okay.
And then that's how we started developing and creating the fight combinations. And that's how the actual 12 count flow or dos de tiros or abecedarios, were developed.
That's fascinating. Wow. I mean, so the early SAIC curriculum, Pagita Terja, some of their stuff, you kind of just, use that.
All the footwork, like forward triangles, reverse triangles, side stepping. One time I was doing it and the guy was like, aha, like he caught me. Aha, that's Pagita Terja. I was like, yeah. It is. It's Pagita Terja. I trained with Guy, we came from the SAIC family. There's a known family that was, involved with Guy at the time. Yeah, we do forward triangle. So do a whole lot of other people. But so it's okay, Yeah, we're not hiding anything,
No, exactly.
Yeah, it's footwork. It's footwork. Now what I did was not different. I started explaining why we use the footwork. Okay, this is a forward triangle, but it's not just transitioning from, point to point. It's transitioning, closing in, gaining space, evading, and start pointing out the applications of the footwork. So then now you can understand, when you're closing in and you're doing your moves or you're evading and resetting, resetting your space or to counter or go to the next move. We start applying the footwork in the stuff that we do, not just do footwork just for the sake of triangles, which a lot of people do anyway. I just start explaining it, just specifically explaining, certain things, and again, I'm not claiming that I invented anything. I'm just saying that that's how I was successful in teaching what I do.
No, it makes sense. I mean, so, all right, so how long did you have the school there, in teaching, Arnis, and then
20 years.
20. Oh, wow.
Yeah, we were in District Heights, Maryland for 20 years. In 2010 was when I closed the school and started doing seminars and going international. By the way, I don't know if a lot of people know, but my first international trip was with the SAIC family. We went to England and with Chris SAIC. And
with Krishna? To see Krishna?
To see Krishna, exactly. Yeah, that was the first time we went there to see Krishna. And then during that time, Tuhan Ray Delnaldo, he started going back, to overseas and stuff. People started bringing him over. And me, I have my school, so I come back and I'm still teaching my school. I'm focusing on my school because I'm doing well. I can't just leave it. I got a house. I got bills. I have to responsibilities. But Ray developed a name for himself in overseas. And when I closed my school, I turned to him. I said, "Hey man, can you help me out?" And he put his hand on it. And Tuhan Ray's the one who I went on tour with him, and we started in Los Angeles with his group there. From there, we went to Puerto Rico, and then we went to Budapest, Austria, Germany, Greece. We went to France. We went to Monaco. We went to back to Italy, and then after the tour was over, I came back. And then that's how it was funny because people knew me and I was shocked, like, how do you know me? But they knew me from the SAIC videos. They knew me from the SAIC, they're selling videos. I'm in the videos, so they knew who I was. A lot of people were buying SAIC videos. A lot of people were doing SAIC drills or training, or a lot of people, whether they say they did or didn't, they were, because how would you know me unless you watched that video? I don't have no videos. I didn't sell any videos. And if you know me for doing something, there it was from there. So Ray really helped me out, and then people started inviting me back, And then when I closed my school in 2010, I started focusing on traveling and doing seminars and workshops and developing Filipino combatives. I wasn't ready for that, I gotta tell you. You know, it's it was it was great to travel and everything, but you know, it brought in it's you're just not ready for it internationally. You know.
Plus, you're still in your school.
Responsibilities, you know. Now you're responsible not just for groups here.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but by that time, you know, I closed my school down. This was after 9/11 and stuff, and you know, so yeah. So then now I'm teaching, you know, overseas.
So then, all right.
I don't know. I jumped from. I must have missed something there.
No. So when you sold the school, is that when you created FC?
No, I've already been developing FC from way before. It was something that was endorsed by Pamana Chris Sayok to revamp the Sayok fighting systems, and the reason it was called FC Filipino Combatives is because I wanted to focus on the combatives aspect of Filipino martial art, not just use the name like Kali because it's cool or combatives because it's cool, but it's combatives because you know we're focusing on this application or this, which other people are doing anyway. So and then the thing was that I wanted to use FC because it's my initials, Felix Cortes.
There you go.
So Filipino Combatives was like a spin-off of Felix Cortes because it's based on, you know, my experience, my fighting experiences and training with the methodologies or, you know, of the Sayok.
Okay.
You know, mind you, I was with the Sayok since I was 13 years old.
No, I know.
You know, so when people knew me, they knew me as the stick guy. Oh, that's the stick guy. I was like, okay. Okay, I got a little knife too, you know.
So let's get into your system, FC. So is it a complete system? I mean, every weapon you teach?
Yeah, I won't say I teach every weapon. We in the curriculum, of course, as in Filipino martial arts, you know, the weapon is the extension of the hand. So if someone has questions or, well, how is this applied with this, then I may say, oh, I'll go into it and I say, well, this is how we do it. But you don't generally have to learn every weapon to you know, to do it. We focus on single stick, double stick, sparadaga, single blade, double blade. If you're doing single sticks, you're doing machete. You know, if you're doing double sticks, you're doing double blade. You know, because when I'm teaching sticks, I'm also focusing on the blade movements of the stick. You know, so if I'm striking is you know, when we're doing things and stuff, okay, that's strictly a stick move. But if you twist the hand this way and you twist like that, wherever the fingers point, that's where the blade cuts. Yeah. So if you're doing like this, yeah, that's cool, and that's a stick move. Understand that this is basically stick slaps and movements. But as soon as you start twisting your wrists and movements and you start getting a little more intricate, then now you have the blade awareness of what we're doing. So I start pointing just little things out, just as an awareness for someone who doesn't know. People that know, no problem. You know, I've taught guys and they're like, yeah, I know that. I'm like, okay, cool. So we'll move on to the next thing. I don't take it personal. I'm like, wow, that's less job for me, right? If you already know it, then I'm ahead of the game. Let's move on to the next level.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I'm happy that you know it already. No egos. Yeah. So yeah, the better the understanding of the person that I'm training, the better it is for me.
No, yeah, right, exactly. You could just move forward. So you got the school, so now you're really focusing on FC and all that. So you don't have a physical location. You're mostly just seminar based, you know.
Now I have a big house, right? Not bragging, but my basement in my house was where I started to train now, but I don't have the physical school. So my basement, I have all the mirrors from the school is there. You know, I have a Smith machine, I have an elliptical, I have a ab machine, I have bikes, I have dumbbells, I have pull-up machines, I have rowers, I have plenty of space, mats, right? I have mats that we had from the school in Queens that Chris Sayok gave me, you know. Wow. So I have mats. I have that till today, mats that we used when I was a kid. You know, they're in my house. And And so I start training some of the people in my house. But mainly what I did is overseas, a lot of overseas training.
All right, so you kind of sounds like you do your privates in your house, but you were doing the seminar circuit and all that. Okay.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
when you started doing the seminar, were you basically creating training groups over there? And
Yes. Started a training group at the different places where I would go, and they would just bring me back once a year to train, or they would come to my house like for a week, and we do
okay,
an intensive training in my house, which that was one of the requirements if they wanted to become to be an apprentice instructor and move forward. Besides me going to visit them in their countries, I would go for a week. We do intensive training for a week, the seminar
mm,
on the weekend. But they would also have to come, to my house and do a week training there as well to keep up with the instructor development
okay,
courses. Yeah, so we did that.
wow. And so you started doing kind of the heavy seminar circuit. Sounds like 2011 or something, so or
Yeah, 2010. That's when we started going on. 2011, 12. Yeah, 13. Yeah.
okay. Wow, and it's been wow. So what do you try? As far as your students, whether they come to your house privately or they're abroad, what do you try to instill in your students as far as their journey?
Yeah, man, stay true to the training, focus on, just, working hard, development, growing, if I teach you something, I've had students, for example, they'll say, hey, look, I invented this move. And I'm like, like I've never invented a move, somebody somewhere had that was already there. I just realized that this is possible, so I tell
Mm,
them that, hey, just realize that there were people before you, that maybe back in the day that died, so like we didn't really
mm,
inventing this stuff, we're realizing that, hey, we can do this too.
yeah,
So just be honest with yourself, focus on your training, cross train. You can train with me, you can train with Doce Pares, you can train with Bahalana, you can train with whoever you want to train with in FMA. Just focus on what that each person is showing you. Don't start like, I mean, you can mix and train as a personally. I'll use whatever, for myself. But if I'm teaching, I give respect to the person that taught me that. So I'll say,
yeah,
okay, this comes from this person, and this is why, I chose to do this because this is what they're really good at. This will, this person taught me this. Just give people respect.
yeah,
And
definitely. No, I totally
yeah,
agree with that. Yeah, if you got something from somebody, at least acknowledge where you got it from. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
sure.
yeah. And hopefully, yeah, that's awesome that you instill that in your students. I think that's just really important. I tell my students, like, you might not know how hard they worked on that concept or whatever they did to get it, and at least you can
Yeah.
just give credit. I mean, that's just, um,
Right. I used to, but let me tell you, I used to make that mistake. I used to do that. I used to say, "Oh, look what I came up with. Oh, look like," but yeah, but you realize you just discovered that you can do that. You just
mm,
discovered, that, hey, this is possible, but you didn't invent it.
yeah,
You didn't invent it. It's
right.
like somebody doing a reverse punch. Oh my God, I invented the reverse punch. Reverse punch has been in the history of
Yeah,
reverse
for
punches since the beginning of reverse punches. You know what I mean?
that's funny.
So come on, that's all. Yeah. So man,
Definitely
and
have
just
that.
be good, man. Be a good person. We all do things or make mistakes, whether wanting to or not wanting to.
Mm,
Just own up to it, move forward, and life goes on, man.
yeah. So what's your ranking structure like in your system?
Yeah, I based it off of the old ranking structure that we used to have. There was it was Mecca, uh, it was Kari, Mecca, Haji, Yakan, Lakan. This was like I believe it was also the Bikira Tisha ranking system, which is Kari was white belt, Mecca was yellow belt, Haji was green, Yakan was brown, and then it was Yakan Isadan Watalo, which was brown 1, 2, 3, and then it was Lakan, which is the black belt, Lakan Guru, which was the black belt instructor, and then you had Lakan Isadan Watalo, was like to 10th degree, so like a general.
Oh, Isa Dawa. Okay.
Right, and then we got away from that because of the just giving them names, and then I followed the structure of the instructors, apprentice, associate, full instructors, things like that. Yeah. So basically, without using the titles, what I do now is I use T-shirts. So it's a black T-shirt. This is not the actual T-shirt, but it's a logo like this, right? This is my logo. It says FC in the center, and then if you have a black T-shirt with a white logo, that means you're a Haji, a Mecca. I mean, Akari. You're Akari. That's the white, right? Okay. If it's yellow, then it's like yellow belt. If it's green, black T-shirt with green, and and so on. So I started using T-shirts with the colored logo to describe like the ranks. But then when you're doing stuff internationally, then that becomes a problem. Because then now your international groups, they have to get shirts and you have to print up stuff and all that costs money and blah, 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 blah. So, so we have the ranking systems, and then, we have our general seminar shirts, and then we just do certificates for the students and stuff to just keep it simple.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're running a school, then that's basically how the ranking system would be. But I tell the guys, hey man, focus on the training, and the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah, right.
I mean, when I was promoted to Tojon, originally when I was like, hey, come to Maryland, we'll promote you to Tojon. I was like, why I need to be Tojon? I don't even have a school. Like, I'm working at a factory. Like, why do I need to be at Tojon? He's like, just come to Maryland. He said, just come to Maryland, So yeah, it was funny. So I went.
That's amazing though. I mean, so like you're Tuhan and in the SEAC fighting systems, and
I started traveling with Alexander Pisarkin to Philippines. He's invited me before, and for one reason or another, schedule or something, just I never made it. And then one year he was like, "Hey man, I'm inviting you. You got to come this year." And I was like, you know what? I'll do it. I think that was shortly right after I met GM Bobby Tabala.
Okay.
And, GM Bobby was in Maryland doing a seminar. Alex was staying with him and training with him. He was working on his instructorship with GM Bobby. Alex also trains with me, one of my guys as well. So I went to the seminar. After that, they came to my house. We had dinner in my house. Jim Bobby told stories. We had a great time. We took photos in my training area downstairs and stuff. And it was just really awesome. And then after that, I said, I'll come to the Philippines. And then I started going regularly to the Philippines with him every year for the Russian house, and just just teaching. It really opened my eyes because you have all these grandmasters. They all have their systems. A lot of them come from Remy Presas, from that system, from Modern Arnis, but they develop their own groups, and they're all teaching at the same place. They're all, working together to promote, Filipino martial arts and themselves. And they're all, having a beer or sharing stories, and, and we're having a great time. And you have all these people from around the world coming to the camp. I'm thinking, why did I do this sooner? And Alex like, you see, I told you. And so I just started traveling to the Philippines, and training with the grandmasters as well, while I'm there. They're doing class. Hey man, I'm at this camp not only to teach, but wow, I got the ability that I can just show up at a class and learn from any one of these guys. People fly and pay money to go to the Philippines to do this. I'm a guest. I was brought there, and wow, this is great. So you take advantage of it. And in 2019, at the one of the dinners, in the Castle Peak Hotel, they were giving out awards, certificates of recognition, thank you, stuff. And they called my name up, and I was like, cool, I get an acknowledgement certificate and stuff. And then when they started reading it, it was GM Rene Tronson. He starts reading it, blah, 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 collective masters, the Council of the Philippines, blah, blah, recognize, Felix, Cortes, and Filipino combatants as grandmaster, blah, 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 blah. I was like, oh.
Wow.
And like, it was so funny because like,
yeah.
I was like, oh my God, it was a heartfelt moment. I was like, wow, man, I don't believe this is happening in the Philippines. Like 6 grandmasters, man, they recognized me like this. It was special.
That's where he came from. Oh, interesting. I didn't. So they collectively got together and kind of decided, and then Rene Thompson made the announcement.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Wow. That's awesome. And that was so was that the first Russian house you went to? Was 2019?
No. I was there 17, 18, 19. Yeah, it was like 3 years after.
Okay.
The first one was 17. That's when we shot the King's Blade action documentary.
King's Blade. Okay.
We shot the King's Blade. That year, we just did from island to island, scouting locations, filming, working. We wanted to do it as a tribute to FMA, or actually this was Alex's, not we, right? This is Alex's idea. A tribute to FMA, but make it like a story also about, a relic that we're searching for, and that relic is the knowledge. The King's Blade is not an actual, like a blade. The King's Blade is like the sharpness of the heart, the sharpness of the hand, the sharpness of your movements, your training, so it was kind of like a little cool story. And
I think so.
Hey man, we introduced it at a festival in New York, and it got played in Times Square on 42nd Street at the AMC Theater.
Wow.
Yeah, urban action showcase.
How many islands did you guys go visit?
Oh my God, man, we visited a whole lot of places. We went to Palawan and Nidos, Puerto Princesa, Cebu. Vegan. We went to 100 Islands. We were just everywhere. It was just one more beautiful sight than the other. It was great.
I just can't imagine.
And this costs a lot of money. Like, Alex invested, his whole camp that he did, that we taught everything. It was just to promote FMA. So he did a great job, and he continues to do a great job.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but positive things about it. I mean, but that just had to be an incredible experience. Just your island hopping, meeting, grandmasters, and just.
Yeah, and he's flying them in. Like, we're going, and then this group is coming, and we're training, and then that group will leave, another group is coming, and and then we'll have, at the end of the camp, we have a dinner, and all the grandmasters are there and stuff. And yeah, man, it's really cool. It's really special. You really get to spend time with the grandmasters, and hear the stories, laugh, train, and you meet other people, and you make friends there, and of course the training is nonstop all day. And sometimes the partying too, right?
Yeah. Jeez, man. So what do you think? All right. So and then in 2019, COVID kind of got shut down, and then they just did one in Mexico, right?
Yeah, it was 2020. 2020, we were there. We were there for at the camp, and then that's when it got shut down, because what happened was China started first shutting down, because one of our guys that came to Russian House was from China, and he had to quarantine. He's like, oh man, I got to quarantine. We're like, it's gonna be all right, don't worry about it, because we're like, this shit ain't happening in this ain't happening in the US, right? It's like, oh my God, it's gonna be okay. And then next thing you know, it's like I have the same worries that he had because it's like it's not gonna be okay.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, wow. You know, when it hits home, it's just your reaction is a little different. You know, so yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, so it was 2020 because 2019 is the beginning of 2019. This is
Right.
January 2019. There was no pandemic. We were at Russian House. It was end of 2019 that it started hitting, and then it didn't get to the Philippines till 2020. You know, where they're shutting down flights and you can't go home.
Got
And,
it.
you know, that
Okay.
kind of stuff.
Got
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So that's how it was.
Wow. So what do you think? I mean, God, so you've been to three of them, like special moments and memories that.
They won in Alex. They just had a special moments and memories from
Yeah,
Russian
like the
House.
things that like just really stand out.
Wow. Man, there's so many because the bond that you there's so many awesome instructors and the bond that you make, you know, with each one of them, you know, you get to learn about them, how they started out. They tell their journey, you know, how they started, how they were told like, you know, you're not gonna make it, or we're not accepting you, you know, we're not taking
Yeah.
any students now, or you know, just different stories. Those are just examples, not specifics.
Right.
You know, and it's like, wow. So man, you know, this happens everywhere. This happens with instructors. You know, it never changes. Just time change, but
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
everything just it happens. What happened to them back then will happen to somebody now. You know, just in different times. You know,
Just incredible.
but
Yeah.
yeah, man, moments. You know, I guess being promoted was one.
Sure.
My first time there filming Kingsblade definitely was really great because now I'm already starting to work in the film industry. I've already worked on the TV series on GN, right? Yeah, The Outsiders. I was doing that in Pittsburgh. So you know now I'm doing more stunt work and
Mm.
choreography and fights for not just that to do it, but knowing the camera angles, knowing you know the distance and stuff, how to shoot it. You know, so I was able to contribute that for when we're shooting or when we're rehearsing or creating that fight that we did in that field in the
Mm.
King's Blade, where we're betting on cockfights, and then I lose, so I'm going to go to pay, but it's not the money that he really wants. You know,
Yeah.
it's something else. And then you know, so then we're like, oh really? You know, he's
Yeah.
disrespectful. We start to fight, and he almost breaks my arm and stuff. You
Yeah.
know, yeah, all that part. You know, the creating that fight, working that fight, shooting that fight. You know, of course, we have Yuri, which is you know a great director of photography, and so yeah, it was. But I was also able to have my input, you know, as far as angles and how to shoot some things,
Mm.
and also coming up with the fight. Alex and I we work really good together. He's very creative, so it helps me a lot, you know, when
Yeah.
we're putting fights together. Besides being like awesomely talented. Yeah, I said it. He's good. You know what's so great about Alex? That Alex trains with like 10 different grandmasters, right? He'll train the smoking stick, they'll go. He'll train, you know, with the Valento Quintada. You know, he'll train with GM Teeny. He'll train with that. And then when he teaches, he'll teach each individually and the concepts and everything individually, you know, like he doesn't overlap one thing or the other.
Right.
And when he, of course, when he applies it, your training is just going to come out. And application is application, right? But when he's explaining and teaching everything, man, he does every drill specifically to how it was taught. I mean, it's I admire him for that.
Yeah. No. Wow. So let's get into it. Yeah, next thing. I mean, you're this. How'd you get into stunt work? How'd that come about? Acting, stunt work.
Well, a lot of people don't know, but I used to be a breakdancer. I
Okay.
used to breakdance in New York, and I was with a group called Dynamic Breakers, and I toured. I did in 1985. I did a tour. It was a U.S. tour with Run DMC, Houdini, the Fat Boys,
Oh
Grandmaster
wow.
Flash, and the Furious Five, Boogaloo Shrimp, Shabadoo, Yeah, we did a U.S. tour, and yeah, it was awesome. So our manager, I think it was Cord Newman and Loretta Rock. Loretta Rock is Timac, the Last Dragon's mother, right? Timac from the Last Dragon. So she was our manager, and when the tour was over, she got us booked on audition for an after school special that they were shooting in the city, and in that after school special there was uh, uh, it was a story about a boy named who's Merlin, like Merlin the magician,
Mm.
and he goes back into time and so on, and the King Arthur's night stuff, and he travels through time. Um, and there had to be a fight scene with this kid. So the director goes, because you questioned us before. I said, yeah, I do martial arts. And I was like, okay, can you do a fight scene with the kid? And I was like, he said it needed to be specific, like swords, like knives. So I was like, yeah, cool. So I told the kid, I said, listen, man, just do this. I'll take care of everything else. Just
Okay.
hit, so on. And we did it. And then he flipped me, and I flipped, and I fell and stuff. Because man, I used to get Pamanatuhan. Chris used to throw me off stage all the time. I was like his uki. I
Yeah.
mean, I was always getting beat up. So I'm like, this is nothing new, and I get to do it for film. This is great. So
Yeah.
he liked it, and then yeah, I got casted. We all did. We did some breakdance scene, but then I got casted as the villain guy who fights the kid, and he defeats me and throws me off a drawbridge, which was in a playground in Central Park in Manhattan. And yeah, so after that, I'm like, you get the bug. Oh man, I
Yeah.
love to do this. The only problem is that in those days, I don't know stunts. I didn't think it was stunt. To me, it was acting in movies. That's how the only way I looked at it. I didn't know who to go to, where to go to learn, to develop this craft. If I did, man, I'd be deep in the New York scene doing stunts and projects.
Yeah.
But I
I agree.
didn't. So what do? You go back to what you know, which is teaching, teaching martial arts and stuff. So,
So
but that's how I got into it. That was 1980, 85.
okay.
Yeah,
And so
that's
was
when I
it
was doing the breakdance, and then '86 was the after school special and stuff.
okay?
And then it wasn't until much later. Actually, I did in '88. I did a movie called The Underground. The same director that for that after school special, he had my info, so he contacted me. He was doing another movie for Sony Pictures, and so they brought me back. I was living in Virginia at the time. They brought me back to New York, and I worked on a month on this film. I was the fight coordinator
Okay.
for it. And I'm like, what does a fight coordinator do? I don't even know. I know how to make fights, but I don't know the logistics of a fight. But I went in there, created these fights, this scene. I played a character,
Yeah.
and it was great. And then they hired me for something else, and I did that. And then again, I hit a wall, and then couldn't move anywhere with it. So,
Oh,
you go
wow.
back to teaching martial arts. And you go back to what you know.
So what
And
you
it
know?
wasn't until I met yeah, it wasn't until Rico Cortes introduced me to a gentleman, and that gentleman used to be the double for Superboy. He worked on Charlie's Angels. He worked on Miami Vice, and yeah. So this special person, he he introduced me to someone who gave me a break. That's the short story.
That's a short. No, that's a
Yeah,
short. Sometimes
that's
that's
the
all
short
it takes,
story.
right? That one person,
Yeah, yeah,
Jeez.
yeah.
And so it sounds like bigger projects have come along, right?
Yes, yes. I worked on. I met some guys. I was at a Marvel Live audition, and I met a group of guys from the DC Stunt Coalition in Maryland, and so I started training with them. When I went to the audition, they're looking at me like, "Who's this old guy?" Because they're all young, right? They could be my child, right? And but after the audition, they were like, "Damn!" High five and whatever, invite me to lunch and stuff.
Mm.
And lunchtime, they were like, "So how old are you?" I was like, "Man, I could be your father, your father, your father." When I told them my age, they were like, "Damn, we're going to be like you when we grow up." So we started training, and I started teaching them FMA, at the place. And audition came up. They invited me. Hey, we're going to Pittsburgh for audition. Want to come? I said, yeah. Hey, I'll drive. You guys come with me. And we went. There was a couple hundred people there. Out of the couple hundred people, I was one of the handful of people that got picked to call back to do it.
Wow.
And then I moved. I moved to. I used to drive Mondays to Pittsburgh and Friday nights back home, and I did that with no guarantees that I'm going to be on the show. Just training, and I just did that on my own dime. Just back and forth, paying my dues, back and forth, staying in hotels. That's costly, but it paid off.
Yeah. Wow.
I worked on a few episodes. I assisted. I started helping out in the trainings and stuff. And the Danny Boyer was the coordinator to get me my shot, and I'm forever grateful.
Wow.
Before that, it was Artie Maleshi. Artie Maleshi in my first movie. Actually, it was a pilot that they were shooting in Miami, and then Artie brought me on, and I got SAG through that. And then moving forward, that's how I was able to work with Danny Boyer, and yeah, I was in Wonder Woman 1984. You'll never see me, but I was there. Yeah. I'm in the credits.
There you go.
I did Punisher, did episode of Punisher. I was in Daredevil. Yeah, you meet people, you train, and yeah, man.
That's awesome.
And I just recently was in Colombia shooting a season 1 of a series that's going to be on Apple TV.
That's where you're in Colombia for, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, that's what I was in Colombia. But actually, last year this time, I came to Puerto Rico to work on a movie that Bruce Willis was doing here. And it was called Survive the Game. That movie now is on Amazon Prime. It's Survive the Game. And I was lucky that I got casted as stunts, but I was casted as a stunt actor because I got a role in it. And I did a scene with Bruce Willis. I plastered my photo on my page on Facebook. I don't have a problem doing that, by the way, guys. I will plaster my photo. So yes, and it was really cool. And then there was another movie that he did. Actually, it was 3. It was that, and then it was The Fortress, and then The Fortress 2. I wasn't casted in The Fortress, but in The Fortress 2, I got another stunt acting a role and this time I have lines and a character and stuff, and I do a lot of shooting and fighting and stuff like that. And that one will be hitting theaters in April. I think April 2022.
Oh, wow.
I got a link. I'll probably post it soon. I just found out the other day. I haven't posted it yet because I've been busy doing stuff, and we're doing this, and I didn't want to overlap this interview with that. Yeah. So I'll post it before maybe before the weekend.
Yeah. So
and I was also in the plane. Gerard Butler filmed a movie that's supposed to take place in the Philippines jungles. They shot it here in Puerto Rico. It's called The Plane. And I played like 3 different roles as a Filipino character there, fisherman, and one, soldier in the jungle and stuff. Do a lot of shooting. That was fun. Will it make it in the final cut? You never know. Because sometimes you end up on the cutting room floor, but. I'll still be in the credits.
Yeah.
It's still an experience. It's still a learning experience. Sure. You're still on set. You're still learning. You're still meeting people. You're still making contacts. So yeah. So that Puerto Rico. I've been living here in Puerto Rico for a year now, and working on films. I work with LA Stunts and Rigging, with Raul Acosel and Ramon Vasquez, Baque, and yeah, man. Ramon kind of was talking to Rico Cortes, and that's how we hooked up. And then I ended up in Puerto Rico with a awesome stunt family here.
Wow.
And so yeah, man, just it's been good. It's been good.
That's awesome. So you moved from Maryland down to Puerto Rico now. Okay.
Yeah, move. Yeah, I'm living here because I'm working here. I still have my home, my family, kids and stuff. Yeah, so this is my second one. I have it here. My sister's sitting right there. She's a school teacher. She teaches English, right? So if I'm working on a film and stuff, and I get a Spanish script, and I just like, hey sis, we got we got to break this script down, break some fights down or something,
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm here because there's I'm working with the stunt group, stunt team here.
That's awesome. So what are your all right? So future, I mean, you kind of future probably. So what are your future goals for you in this system? Your system.
Well, presently, I'm training one guy. He's an apprentice, Carlos, and he lives on the west side of the island. As a matter of fact, we have a training before. I get too busy and stuff. We have a training this week with Carlos Gallosa, and so I'm developing him so he can be the representative for Filipino combatives here in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
I'm here in Puerto Rico, but I moved, so he would be the person that would lead the training group. So that's what I'm doing. I'm if I'm here, I'm open for private classes and workshops or seminars and stuff. But my focus here in Puerto Rico, besides that is in the field. We get busy and then the schedule gets crazy. But yeah, man, yeah, Filipino martial arts will always be a part of me. It's a part of my performance. Even if I'm not using sticks and stuff or whatever, is the training, the mindset, the abilities, that I learn from training with the Sayat family and any other FMA grandmaster that has contributed to who I am today, goes with me when I am representing not just myself but the coordinators or a project and stuff like that. That's all part of Felix Cortes now.
So
yeah.
What advice do you have for the FMA community? Like, how can we work better together? Or whatever?
I would say have a mutual respect for one another. Like, man, maybe you do a technique that I would think to myself, I would never do that. But that's me. Maybe I'm not good enough. When I say I would never do that, it doesn't mean because I'm better. It just means that, man, I'm not that good to pull that off. Can you think about it that way? If somebody says something, you got to think about it. In what context did they say it? Don't go right away into like a defensive mode or a negative thought. Think of it. Hey, maybe he couldn't do. Maybe he would never do it because he can't do it. Maybe he's not physically fit to do it. Try to have an open mind. And respect other people because they have talents that you may not have. Or just they're at a place in their life that you're not. Just
well said.
Just train, man. Train hard. Just keep training hard. And remember, you only challenging. It's you against you. You're competing against yourself.
Any day soon.
yeah. People ask me, it's like, shit, man. Yeah, I've trained. I've been in groups. I've been in the SILE group. They're known that they have trained, SEAL, Special Forces and stuff, right? Yeah, I've been part of that group. I've been part of those training. How many times that, I'm just a small part of something big, that I was lucky to be there. But I haven't been in any war or anything like that. So, we all train for combat. We all train for the reality and everything like that. But my reality is that I do it more in movies than I do it in the street. You know what I mean? That's my reality. So now my focus is on that. Yeah, I want to train. I want to be real, but I want to be like real good so I can transpire that on film. Will it work if I needed to use it? Yeah. But will it look really cool that it's real and entertaining? Yeah.
Even better.
Yeah, that's cool. So, respect each other. Yeah, respect each other and just do what you do and let others, do what they do.
Yeah, without getting bad shape or taking it personal or saying whose system is better than whose or what. Yeah.
I've had my share of that, I've made mistakes, but who doesn't, man? Just, hey, you know what? Don't judge me for who I was, but accept me for who I am.
Yeah. Right.
Just like a child. You have a child, you have a little kid, he makes a mistake. When that little kid is 30, you're still gonna say, remember when you were 2? Ah, man, he was 2. You know, let
Yeah,
it go, bro.
we
Yeah,
all go
yeah.
through a growing
Sure,
stage, you know what
sure,
I mean?
sure.
Or we all
Sure,
go
sure,
through a
sure.
martial maturity, you know what I mean? I mean,
Right. I didn't kill anybody, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's good.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know who am I like to give like advice. Like, I don't know that I'm that person. You
Yeah, yeah.
know, I can tell you what I think. I can tell you what I think. But if I tell you I would do this, sure, I would do this today. But what if I change my mind and wouldn't do it tomorrow? Then the advice that I gave you that I would do would be no good,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Hey, I would do this, but then I would do this because in my frame of mind, the way I'm thinking now is like that. But a year from now, I may be thinking something different. I would never do that.
Yeah. No, exactly. I mean,
It happened to me. It's happened to a lot of us because we grow and change. So I can tell you, look, based on what's going on now, I think that this would be what I would do. That would be a fair statement of how I would
yeah.
introduce that.
You just, yeah, as long as there's honesty in it, like, yeah.
Am
No.
I making sense? I don't know.
No, no, definitely. I think so. Right. Based on what I know now, I think you're just being honest. Yeah, right. I don't think I
Yeah.
think that's a good approach to go
Yeah,
about
based
it.
on the information that was given to me, right?
Yeah.
Based on the one-sided information that I was given, you know, I might do this, you know, right? Because it's truth. There's your story, my story, and then there's the truth. That's what some people say.
There
Right?
you
I'm not saying
go.
that's it. That's what some people say. You
That's
know.
so true, though. There's there's your story, and then there's the truth. Right?
Yeah, and who's true? The truth based on the point of view of the person receiving or giving.
You know what I
It's
mean?
like that's my LOT or whatever, you know, my logical
No, I
order
like it.
of
I like
thinking
it.
or my lack of logic of thinking.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
it works for me, so I like it. So, so all
right,
right, we're
right.
about to close out. Social media. How can folks? So your
Yeah,
YouTube
you can
channel.
follow me on uh, Felix Cortes. I think it's my page is GM Felix Cortes. Felix Cortes. I have my Facebook page is Filipino Combatives. I use my Facebook page of Filipino Combatives not just to promote Filipino Combatives, but I promote all other arts. If you're gonna go there, you'll probably see, you know, somebody else's seminar posted on there, you know,
Okay.
because it doesn't matter to me. You come to my page, I'm going to give you some information that if I can't give it to you, I'm going to guide you to somebody that you can get it from. You
All
know,
right.
it doesn't matter who it is. Even I post instructors that I've never even met. I'll post their seminars on my thing because I say, oh, look, that looks cool what they're doing. I'm going to put it on my page. And if somebody wants to follow it, you know, great, follow it. And if they don't, well, at least I put it up. You know,
Yeah.
so
Right.
Filipino Combatives Global, Felix Cortes, Tuhon Felix Cortes on YouTube.
Oh, okay. So the YouTube is 200 Felix Cortez. Okay.
The YouTube is Tuhon Felix Cortes. You know, that's what people. A lot of people know me. Still refer to me as Tuhon Felix Cortes. There's no
Okay.
problem with that. Mostly, I just tell, hey, just call me Felix. I'm good with that. You don't have to call me GM or you don't have to call me. If you feel comfortable doing that, fine. But it's not a prerequisite. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
something that you have to do. Call me Felix. Call me if you're my bro. Call me bro. And if not, then let's become bros, and then you call me bro.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Just be cool.
No, that's no. So so we're happy with Robert Forster interviewing you tonight.
You see that? You see that? Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was awesome. You need to post that photo. I told you, right? When I showed it to you, you look like you're looking in the mirror, right?
That was like too
Yeah,
funny.
dude. I'm telling you, man, the resemblance is uncanny. It's remarkable.
Oh my God,
Now
that's
you know. I
funny.
was like, okay, this is a dummy account because he's using an actor's profile pic, right? And you're probably thinking, man, who does this guy think he is? He don't even respond or something. No, it's not like that. It's not like that.
Yeah, I just,
Not like
sometimes
that
I
at
just
all.
realize, hey, they might be busy or maybe they just didn't see
Right.
it, so I never, go to the worst or say like, nothing ever like that, but I'm going to, yeah, definitely going to have to post that and just see what people.
You did. You know what's so funny? One of the stunt guys that that was working with in Colombia, we were sitting down and and I asked another guy came on set, right? They flew in another young man to work on the show. And so I said, hey, man, do you have social media? You mind if I hit you up as a friend? And then the other guy goes, hey, man, like, we've been here for weeks. You didn't ask me for a friend. And I told him, I said, hey, man, you should check your email. I sent you a friend's request a month ago. And he goes, no, you didn't. And he checks. He goes, oh, man. I said, yeah, you didn't even accept that we've been here. But I never said anything. I never was like, hey, man, how come I send you a request? Hey, because we're working on a show. We're busy. He saw it. And a lot of people don't use Facebook now. A lot of people are on Instagram, you know, especially in
That's another thing too. I mean, with all these different social media sites, you know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
You know, it's hard to keep track of, you know, what's
it's
here.
No big deal, man. Don't jump to think the worst.
No. That's a good.
I gotta remind myself. I gotta remind myself a lot of times too, man.
Yeah.
Again, when I tell you something, is something that I practice myself. Like when I post a workout, I don't post a workout because I'm so freaking tough and cool. I post it to remind yourself that, man, this time next year, remember that. Because it's going to come up in your story this time next year. If you're not doing that, I'm like, what happened, Felix? You lost it. Oh, I got to get back on track. It's reminders, man. It's checkpoints. That's what I use my page for.
Yeah. You know? Keep people motivated. Here,
anybody, yeah.
I'm gonna let you guys be. Here it is. I'm gonna let I'm gonna let the audience say it. Let the audience be the judge.
Dude, that's you. That's you. I told you, man. Yeah, that's an awesome pick.
We'll have to see. Okay, so guys, if you think
you can definitely get work doubling him.
If I'm Robert Forster II or impersonator, let us know.
Yes.
But, GM Felix
yes.
is definitely thinking I'm somehow related or a double of Robert Forster.
There you go.
Caesar saying, wow. So I'm going to take that as a yes from Caesar. I think you're right. I'm going to have to leave that up for a while.
Definitely, man. Definitely. You said as your profile pic for a little bit. You know.
Jeez, you can wait. You're a stunt double. There you go. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that's if I was a stunt guy, that would work. Too funny.
Listen, Dean, I really like to thank you for the interview.
Oh yeah,
I hope that I answered the questions.
100%.
You know, sometimes I get to talking and I'll skip from one thing to another, and I don't know if I actually answered your question, but you know, I really tried to do my best. I'm kind of frank, like when I was, well, you know, just try to be open about stuff.
Yeah, I thought you did fantastic. So what I do is I download this, I put it on YouTube, and so what I'll do is I'll definitely email you the link of the download, and you can share, you know, wherever you want to.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
sounds great.
But I appreciate you coming on. You know, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
All right, well,
Have a great evening. Have a great evening, everyone.
And good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
You take care.
Many blessings.
Bye.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
All right, that wraps up 266 with my psychic, Robert Forster. Who is next? Thursday, Irish stick fighting. Bernard Letty. And it's going to be a afternoon. We're going to be 2 o'clock Eastern time. I can't wait. I don't know a lot about Irish stick fighting, and I'm looking so forward to learning about it. So yeah, you could show some of the weapons. You could do some demos. So that's 2 o'clock p.m. afternoon, Thursday. So if you can, check it out. All right, folks. If you haven't, again, please subscribe to FMA Discussion. Again, all the monies that we receive, we give to charity. So by the more subscribers we have, the more money we generate to give to charity. Okay? So again, FMA Discussion on YouTube. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time.